The state of Colorado declares its unemployment system has had significant success. Wait, what? The system's such a cluster, we found a county that's willing to help Coloradans elsewhere navigate unemployment. The fear was that the pandemic year would lead to record opioid deaths in our state. Now we have the numbers. A disaster in American history led to the creation of one of Colorado's most beautiful places. And there is a lesson helpful for the coming cold, layers and layers of lessons. Let's gather by the fire at my place for next. The state says its new unemployment system has had significant success. I'll pause here for a moment if you would like to get up, grab your television, and throw it through a window. Significant success is not what so many Coloradans say that they have been getting from the state unemployment system. So that claim today by state leadership just had us stumped. Marshall Zellinger is going to try to unstump us.
So I'm down to just a few $100 here just for daily expenses and food.
Chris Hughes started receiving regular unemployment in November. He's eligible for $424 a week. He just hasn't received any since the state switched to a new unemployment system in January.
I would verify my benefits that I was looking for work. I had proof of work. I was doing everything the state required me to do to receive those unemployment benefits. And then every week was denied on the following day.
Chris's situation with Colorado's unemployment system is not unique, but the deputy director in charge of it told a Colorado Legislative Committee today that it's also not what the majority of unemployed are experiencing.
Wasn't without its challenges, but overall it's a fairly significant success.
A thoroughly significant success.
I've been kind of depressed all week, but that was funny, Marshall.
In that committee hearing, Democratic State Senator Jeff Bridges asked the follow-up Chris Hughes was laughing about.
There are still some people for whom this system is not working. In what ways has this rollout been a success?
Since January 10th, when the state switched to a new unemployment system, 165,000 claimants have received $412 million. But the number of people not receiving benefits they're eligible for could fill Mile High Stadium.
I fully recognize that we are not, that there are claimants that are not getting paid and that they're having challenges with getting their benefits. And there are a lot of reasons for that. And we're not happy with that. We are doing everything that we can.
During an online workshop today, attended by city leaders across the state, Governor Jared Polis was asked about the issues with unemployment payments.
It's little consolation to people who, literally live paycheck to paycheck and need the money at that point in time. Everybody is made whole, just so you all know that. So, if it does take 3 or 4 weeks, they don't lose their benefits. They get them. And it's really tough for people. I get it because they spend down their bank accounts and they're probably on their credit card, but they do get the money.
And that's great, but that's not now. I need it now. So I needed it yesterday. I needed it the day before yesterday.
One other note from the Department of Labor and Employment on the new system. The Chief of Staff told the Legislative Committee today another positive is fraud detection. Earlier this week, Jeremy Hohola reported that there have been more fraudulent claims filed in Colorado than legitimate claims. The Chief of Staff said that the number of fraudulent payments prevented just through the launch of the new system paid for the system itself in 1 week.
So, Marshall, I think a lot of people are just going to kind of be taken aback by what they heard the governor say about how, just you put it on your credit card and then you're made whole down the line. I do not begrudge the governor his wealth. That's fine. That's his thing. But the idea that people can just put their life on a credit card because the unemployment system is broken and everything's going to be fine after that. No, putting your life on a credit card leads to a cascading series of failures in people's lives that they're going to be digging out of for a long time to come.
Look at the woman that I interviewed on Tuesday who had that high-interest 6-month loan that if she keeps it for the entire 6 months will have paid $6,000 in interest on $1,300, all because the money that she's eligible for is just sitting there unable to get to her. But when it does get to her, it'll have those past weeks on that same check, but there's that time in between that if you don't have the money, it may not be a proper solution.
Marshall Zellinger, I'd be remiss if I didn't note, looking fresh tonight. Thank you, sir. Hey, here's another sign of just how jacked up Colorado's unemployment system is. Workforce Boulder County is getting desperate calls from people outside Boulder County, and they've stepped up to try and help those people navigate the unemployment process.
They're so happy that someone actually picks up a line and there's a human contact. And we don't always have the answers. You know, we don't have all the answers, but we're really customer focused and we care about people, and public service is our #1 priority. So we have a group of really good listeners. I think really meeting that issue with some compassion and patience and good listening skills is what it takes.
I mean, God bless them for doing it. I mean, the last thing anybody wants to hear is like, oh, sorry, you're not in Boulder County, can't help you, click, you know. Aaron Jones there told us that along with helping people sort through the unemployment maze, they're also helping Coloradans in and out of Boulder County get job ready, you know, updating resumes and practicing interview skills, helping people find available jobs where they have expertise. Should mention, though, you don't all have to call Boulder County. There are workforce centers around the state, so hopefully you could look for help closer to home as well. Colorado has hit the 10% vaccinated mark, 19th state to do it, according to the CDC's stats. 10.2% of our population has one shot. That's more than 500,000 folks. More than 253,000 of those people have gotten 2 shots. Denver Health and the city are announcing plans today to plant 4 vaccination clinics in neighborhoods that are not easily served by hospitals and pharmacies. First one's in Montbello starting next week, 3 more locations TBA. Our hospitalization numbers keep dropping. It's wonderful news. 456 people are currently hospitalized in Colorado with COVID-19. That is down 16 patients from the day before, down 82 patients from this time last week. So there is serious concern that 2020 was going to end up being the deadliest year on record in Colorado for overdoses. Talked about this quite a bit over the summer on Next. Then the year played out, and it happened. Arnusha Roy takes a look at the numbers dating back to 1975 and what happened during our pandemic year.
Even for those with a deep understanding of overdose and how complicated it is.
Frustrating and discouraging.
The experts like Dr. Rob Valek are heartbroken at what happened in 2020.
2020 will be the worst year that we've ever seen.
The state said preliminary numbers show more than 1,300 people died of an overdose last year, the most the state has seen according to their records dating back to 1975. The pandemic played a role.
A lot of anxiety and depression and stress. And those things, in turn, lead to more misuse of substances.
Then there's fentanyl, a powerful and deadly synthetic opioid that played a role in 487 deaths last year in Colorado, more than double compared to 2019.
Very upsetting, especially since we started to see some progress in 2019. Increased treatment availability, increased naloxone availability.
The state says medication-assisted treatment has been available as COVID dominated our world, and methadone clinics saw more people.
And we actually saw their numbers increase in March, April, and May.
But when it comes to residential and inpatient facilities,
severe addiction of whatever sort, whether it's alcohol or opioids that might need to be at a stabilizing setting, that's definitely been impacted. We've had some facilities that have had outbreaks where they've had to have temporary closures. A lot of others have had to reduce their bed capacity.
That put more pressure on the system.
We already don't have enough residential treatment capacity for substance use in Colorado as it is, and it has been restricted probably 30%.
More so than ever, advocates are reminding people they are there to help.
I want to remind people that recovery is possible.
So if you don't know where to start, you can always call the Colorado Crisis Services. That number is on your TV right now. And there's also the Opi Rescue. It's this app that you can download, and then it's going to connect you to the closest medication-assisted treatment facility to you to make that as easy as possible. Now, the state said they know people are running into the wait list when it comes to the residential and the inpatient facilities. They said, get on the wait list and then hope that a bed will open up sooner rather than later. Dr. Valek said one of the really important things right now is connection. And so even something, Kyle, as simple as a phone call, a text, checking up on someone who may need your support, he said that is going to go a really long way.
You know, Anusha, something that we were talking about last night on 9 News at 10 is the concern about fentanyl showing up, especially mixed in with other things in Boulder County these days.
Yeah, that's actually something that the DEA has been worried about across Colorado. And just an example, they were saying just in the Denver metro area, the average seizure right now is anywhere from 10 to 15,000 pills. That's triple what it was 5 years ago. And Kyle, like you were talking, a lot of times they're finding it that it's laced with, let's say, a fake or counterfeit oxy pill or a Xanax pill that looks very real, but it's not. It's counterfeit. So the real issue is that people are taking these pills and have no idea what's in them.
A lot of rumors swirling about what's going on in Boulder County with fentanyl right now. Again, today, the DA was saying they've got one death that they're looking into, waiting for toxicology. So a wait-and-see situation there. Anusha, thank you. Aurora Police Chief Vanessa Wilson came in last year promising to clean house. And another officer with a use of force problem has now been swept out the door. Officer Robert Rosen responded to a trespassing call back in August at a King Soopers. He was supposed to be helping a fellow officer arrest a suspect who was not cooperating. Officer Rosen's way of doing that was punching the guy in the ribs and tasing him 5 times within 30 seconds, all while keeping his body camera turned off. That's somebody else's. Robert Rosen is now a former Aurora police officer. So y'all broke the internet again last night with your generosity. Second time in 3 weeks that your Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign has crashed a nonprofit's website. The Western Colorado Community Foundation told me today that 8,000 people tried to give all at once last night. This is a great cause this week. It's our first one dedicated to the Western Slope. The Community Foundation is divvying up our donations 3 ways with no overhead to 3 different nonprofits that all work to prevent youth suicide. That is a particular issue right now in Western Colorado. These groups work with kids in Mesa, Montrose, Delta, and Garfield counties. And you raised $30,000 for them last night, even with the broken website. If you text the word thanks to 303-871-1491, I'll send you that link where you can read more about the 3 specific nonprofits, their work, and then you can join me in giving if you're interested. You grab the link now, but do not feel like you all need to rush there at once. The drought we're seeing now has been a centuries-old problem in northeast Colorado, made worse recently by climate change. Drought is also the reason one of our state's great natural areas exists. A year ago tonight, we were blissfully unaware COVID-19 was headed our way. Next was out on the presidential campaign trail with a Coloradan, leading to a murky on-air moment that was one of our favorites of pre-pandemic 2020. Let's remember part of the year that was not terrible. Next.
We've gone back over to cloudy skies with a few flurries in downtown Denver. And even with that afternoon sun, our high today only 20 degrees at DIA. Some areas in eastern Colorado in the single digits and teens. But the coldest air is still north of us. Set to move in this weekend, along with the chance for accumulating snow in the mountains and right here in Denver. The record cold temperatures are certainly possible as we move through Sunday afternoon. Cloudy tonight with flurries and icy fog, our low at 4. Tomorrow, cold, a mix of clouds and sunshine with a few flurries and again that icy fog. And then look at this. Saturday's high 17 with a low of 4. Sunday's high 7. We go below 0 and then Monday morning -9. Wind chill advisories have been posted.
Gentlemen, be warned on Sunday, they're going to want to snuggle. Hey, almost a full year into the pandemic, it's almost hard to remember the before times. So that's why we often ask around here, what did we used to talk about? Well, 1 year ago tonight, politics guy Marshall Zellinger was on a road trip. He was following Senator Michael Bennet in New Hampshire for the Democratic presidential primary. Doesn't that seem like 4 years ago? Photojournalist Mike Grady, who is a native New Englander, was manning the camera for their live report on a very, very foggy night in Concord. And that's not some camera effect behind you. Is it really that foggy? It is like pea soup there.
In the last 30 minutes, it's come in. I have no idea what this is. It's rain. By now, it's rain.
Wicked fog.
Wicked fog is what Grady says.
Wicked fog from Mike Grady behind the camera. Senator Bennet said that he needed a top 3 finish in the New Hampshire primary to keep his presidential hopes alive. I hope I'm not spoiling this for anybody by telling you he didn't get it. There were some write-in candidates that did better than Bennett in New Hampshire. Within an hour of the polls closing, he folded up his campaign.
It's a little bit like stepping back in time when you come out to the Pawnee.
A beautiful and peaceful spot in Colorado, born out of an American disaster. That's next. One of the great public lands in our state exists today only because of a devastating climate event. I was today years old when I learned that the Dust Bowl of 1930 led to the creation of the Pawnee National Grassland. Corey Reppenhagen knew.
It's a little bit like stepping back in time when you come out to the Pawnee. You can kind of just enjoy the expansiveness.
A recent snow on the Pawnee National Grassland highlights the true beauty of this prairie. But it also conceals a problem that has always plagued this part of northeast Colorado.
So as people came out here and started settling, the weather was a real challenge for them.
Reagan Cloudman with the U.S. Forest Service says frequent drought made it tough for farmers and ranchers to make a new life here during the homestead days.
And then the Dust Bowl happened and really made it that much more difficult for people.
She says the struggle was compounded by the new farming and ranching practices that strip the land of its native prairie shortgrass. The grass holds the soil together and keeps moisture near the surface, reducing the chance of the wind stealing the dirt away. Some families were forced to abandon their land, while others who remained barely survived with little food and water. That's when the U.S. government stepped in and purchased pieces of that part of Colorado that was hit hardest by the Dust Bowl. That's why the Pawnee National Grassland today is a patchwork of land intertwined with private property.
That was the government's way of trying to rebound the area and to get the land back to what it was and to help try to recover from the Dust Bowl.
The U.S. Forest Service, who's managed the government section since 1954, and the private landowners work together to conserve what's left of our state's shortgrass prairie.
Not necessarily preserve the land, but conserve it and have it as a healthy working grassland.
Meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen for Next.
What a beautiful, cold-looking place. Well, there's nothing like curling up by the fire with a good book or a quality local news program. Book Club did that, just with more layers. Gather around the fire, children. It's the most Colorado thing we saw today, and it's next. The most Colorado thing we saw today is a dedicated and socially distanced book club in the middle of pandemic winter. Kate gave a shout out to her women's book club. They meet every 6 weeks, come COVID or cold or anything else. So lately they just busted out the propane heaters, the fire pit, the sleeping bags, the coats, the snow boots, the hats, the mittens, and the masks, and held this week's session on a back porch. Shout out to the person there in the dog mask. That's great. Let's tell unemployment stories. Chris says, Governor Polis's comment about waiting 3 to 4 weeks is a joke. Chris says, I'm on unemployment. Last payment was November 28th. Kim says unemployment is successful. Successful and driving me crazy. Called customer service, request a call back. First available is February 26th. Can't promise we'll fix it, but we'll keep talking about it.